My friends, with all of your strength, stand with me.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we are here to tell you what your favorite Zelda game says about you.
Cowards! Wait here, Princess.
There have been plenty of titles in the Legend of Zelda franchise, each putting its own unique spin on the tale. In fact, a lot can be told about a person based on which iteration they prefer. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The original Legend of Zelda, released in 1986, started it all. Without it establishing the formula, no one would even have a favorite Zelda. Many of the tropes established in the game persist today, however, much has also changed in the intervening years. It's nothing if not traditional, and so are the people who love it. If you think the original was the best, you certainly respect your elders and honor those that came before you. Oh, and since you almost surely played this game back in the 80s, it's safe to say you're Gen X. If Zelda was traditional, Zelda 2 was anything but, changing from a top-down adventure to a side-scrolling RPG. Even its name is unusual, the only entry to drop The Legend of. It's also punishingly difficult by Zelda standards. Because of these reasons, it's the black sheep of the Zelda family, and so are its fans. Zelda 2 players want to be different, to go against the grain. To them, conventions are illusions and meant to be challenged, and the easy way is never the right way. The third Zelda, A Link to the Past, returned to the format of the original, and at least in the minds of its fans, perfected it. Even more so than the first, much of the formula of what makes Zelda Zelda was refined here, giving it a classic feeling. So naturally, if this holds a special place in your life, you love the classics. While classic rock wasn't the start of rock music, it's where the genre really congealed, just like this version of Zelda. What we're saying is, you probably like the Beatles quite a lot. Rolling out worldwide in 1993 on the original Game Boy system, Link's Awakening broke new ground by becoming the first in the franchise to be on a handheld system. This wasn't the only way the game broke from tradition, however. Rather than featuring another story about saving Zelda from Ganon and obtaining the Triforce, Link's Awakening saw Link stranded on a strange and mystical island, drawing inspiration from the TV show Twin Peaks. If this Zelda tops your list, you're probably a creative person and likely a bit offbeat. Much more formulaic in Zelda storytelling, but taking an even larger leap in terms of gameplay, was Ocarina of Time. Released on the N64, thus being the first Zelda with 3D graphics, this time Zelda and Hyrule were back. Refining what had made Zelda 1 and A Link to the Past so popular, the game has been named as the best video game of all time by numerous publications over the years. So fans of this one are in good company, taking the populist approach. That's not a bad thing, of course, as the most popular things get that way for good reason. Just like the Gen Xers who first played the original Zelda, for many millennials this was their first time with Link, so odds are that you fall into that generation. When the time came to create the sequel to one of the most popular video games ever made, Nintendo once again took the unexpected route. Like Link's Awakening, Majora's Mask departed from Hyrule, introduced a time-based system that divided players, but more importantly brought a much darker tone. An ever-looming shroud of death hung over Link in Majora's Mask, and we all knew the edgy kid in high school that loved this one. If you're them, we'd bet you also are a fan of My Chemical Romance and got your shirts at Hot Topic. Can confirm. But don't listen to the haters. Your appreciation of the franchise's more dark and mature turn has only made this one more and more beloved over the years. Of course, not every entry into the Zelda canon needs to be dark and ominous, and the first release for the GameCube, The Wind Waker, took the opposite approach. With its cel-shaded graphics, even the look of the game was more bright and cartoonish. Being the opposite of Majora, fans of this one were the sunny, happy kids in high school. And just like the game, you're probably an absolute delight to be around. Around this time, Nintendo began to increase the output of games released on handheld systems like the Game Boy Advance and the DS. With the portability of these systems and their often unique features, like a second screen, a lot of these games featured a unique twist. This included shifting between centuries or seasons, shrinking, becoming a moving painting, and, well, trains. If the Oracle games, Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, or A Link Between Worlds is your favorite, you probably have a thing for gimmicks. And to be honest, we're sort of surprised you exist. There's a couple more handheld titles we haven't mentioned, however. While Zelda is almost exclusively a solo adventure, they did manage to break the formula in a sort of sub-franchise. These co-op games include Four Swords Adventures, and Triforce Heroes. Starting as an add-on for a remake of A Link to the Past, the trilogy required multiple players, each with their own accessories, to fully enjoy. If these were your favorites, chances are you had 2 or 3 friends with their own link cables, GBAs, and a GameCube. None of this is to say that Zelda on home consoles stopped being a thing, of course. Originally developed as a GameCube title, Twilight Princess was released both for that system and the Wii simultaneously. Appropriate considering the game's themes of duality. Perhaps more than any Zeldas preceding it, Twilight Princess had a strong focus on story and character. Most likely, you love your friends and have an appreciation for a rich and intricate story. And yeah, the game is a little dark, so you might have been friends with the Majora's Mask kid. A much lighter approach was taken with the first entry to be fully developed with the Wii console in mind. Much like Wind Waker had used a look inspired from cartoons, Skyward Sword's aesthetics were reminiscent of a watercolor painting. While some of the gameplay and controls were controversial, the look and lore, diving earlier into the history of Zelda than any game before, were praised. If this was the Zelda that caught your fancy, you probably like to know how things started and are a bit of an artist. If this was the Zelda you started with, you're likely in Gen Z. In seeking to address player complaints, developers took their time crafting Breath of the Wild, bucking the linear storytelling that had dominated Zelda since the days of Super Nintendo. In its place was a large and expansive open world that encouraged non-linear play. This was the transfusion of discovery and adventure for the series and helped make Breath of the Wild one of the most praised games of all time, by everyone from journalists to casual fans. If you pick this as your favorite Zelda game, we know you love to seek adventure and yearn for amazing discoveries. The world is not a linear thing for you to walk through, but a complicated quest for you to embark on in any order you see fit.
Don't you see? There's nothing more I can do.
How do you follow up one of the most praised and beloved games of all time? Well, you take what worked and expand on it even further. Tears of the Kingdom tripled the open world with underground and sky areas to explore in addition to the main map. It not only drew from Breath of the Wild, but all Zelda games that had come before it. It even built upon what other unrelated games had done, using elements like its build mechanic. Many considered it an improvement on its prestigious predecessor, and if you are among them, you probably have a deep respect for not just Zelda, but all video games. You recognize that the medium has a long, interesting history of innovation and breaking the rules that you deeply respect. Did we figure out what kind of person you are? Tell us which Zelda is your favorite and what it says about you below.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.